getting presents ready for all the nice kids and adults throughout the world, and lumps of coal for all the naughty ones. And I should say that given our concern about global warming, we're going to be phasing out coal over the next couple of years. This is a time of year when no matter our religious orientation, we express our gratitude for what we have, and especially our love for those around us, and we prepare gifts for them. But while the gifts we give are important, my friends at the Pennsylvania Together campaign have convinced me we should also be grateful not just for the individuals around us, our families and our friends, but for our communities. And we should recognize that the people who do so much to make our communities better. For many of the good things in life, from basic security and safety to the opportunities we all need to live a good life, can only be obtained by working together in our communities and through our government. So before I make my rounds to individuals, I want to express my gratitude to the nice members of the Pennsylvania General Assembly who've worked so hard this year to support legislation that will create opportunities for people in every corner of the state, no matter whether they're young or old, black, brown, or white, no matter their gender or orientation, and no matter whether they're rich or poor or somewhere in between. And while the legislation I'm talking about was supported by members of both political parties, in some cases, like Pennsylvanians Together, my operation in North Pole is totally nonpartisan. I do want to thank the Democrats who lead the House of Representatives for allowing and encouraging these pieces of legislation to come to the floor for a vote where they were all passed. I'm going to bring up some of the sponsors of this critical legislation and give them a little show the gift that they have and thank them for their work and let them tell you a little bit about what the legislation they sponsored does. So I'm going to start with Representative Elizabeth Fiedler, who is going to talk about corporate tax reform.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Corporate tax reform. Hi everyone, I'm State Rep Elizabeth Fiedler. Thank you to the team at Penn Policy and the Pennsylvanians Together campaign for the opportunity to speak about a bill that I'm very proud of, combined reporting, which I introduced with Chair Steve Samuelson. 73% of the corporations active in our state pay no corporate taxes to the state at all. That's because highly profitable corporations use other states like Delaware that have low or no corporate net income taxes to hide their profits. We believe the time for that practice to end is now. That's why we have this gift here. The big companies that benefit from this loophole are some of the largest and richest corporations. They use Pennsylvania's workforce and infrastructure to make their huge profits, and they should be fair and nice, and should be required to play by the rules and give back to the hardworking people of our Commonwealth. Combined reporting puts an end to this deceptive practice and requires all companies operating in Pennsylvania to report to Pennsylvania. Just like every hardworking Pennsylvanian in our districts has to pay their taxes, we believe it's time for major corporations to quit hiding their profits and pay their fair share. Thank you.
To the current corporate tax system, we say, ho, ho, ho. It's a joke. Oh. Another bill we're going to talk about today is the Fairness Act. It was sponsored by Representative Malcolm Chignano, Dan Frankel, and Jessica Benham. Well, we have the whip of the House Democratic Caucus, Dan Miller, here to talk about it.
Thank you very much. We have to report this, right? Look, obviously one of the great things that our caucus and our leadership team was excited to do is work with our members on big bills that can make a difference. One of those key bills that we started out really early on with is the Fairness Act. And what a great time, to be honest. I was kind of hoping this would already have passed by now, but in this season of goodness, the Fairness Act must be part of the discussion as we hope our friends in the Senate realize it's not too late to do what's right and to take a bipartisan bill like the Fairness Act. And what it does in particular is it makes sure that no matter who you love, you have those protections at work, at home, when it comes to housing, in education, in anything, you have protections so that nobody can be discriminated because of who they love. It is an essential right, and I have to say, one of the most unfortunate things is we are the outlier in the Northeast. Pennsylvania, everybody else has figured out that is the right thing to do to pass this type of protection and to stand for this type of issue. Pennsylvania, it is not too late. Our friends in the Senate, it is not too late to do what's right, to pass the Fairness Act. So I'm so glad to be here to speak, obviously for Representative Kenyatta and Benham and Frankel, because I know that they put their heart and soul to making this happen. It's not too late. The year is not done. Let's get it done. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, but the best thing is pass the Fairness Act in every one of these bills that are here to talk about today. Thank you very much.
Another critical bill that was passed in the House was sponsored by Representatives Dawkins and Kim, and in the Senate by Senator Taglione. That's a bill to raise the minimum wage to $15. Representative Patty Kim is here to talk about that.
Dear Santa, I would like to have our bill, House Bill 1500, passed this year. House Bill 1500 was passed back in July in a bipartisan manner that would raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2026 and then tag on a cost of living adjustment. So we have kids with really long holiday lists, and parents are coming up short because in Pennsylvania, we're still legally allowed to pay someone $7.25 an hour, which is about $30,000 a year. Who can live on that? So who suffers? Our children, our families. Hey, if that's minimum wage, please be careful. So dear Santa, the only thing that's holding up is our Senate Republicans who will not bring this bill up. We need it today, we need it this year. Next year, New York, our neighboring state, is raising their minimum wage to $16 an hour. Where are we? $7.25. Embarrassing, awful. Let's support our working families by raising the minimum wage. Thank you, Santa.
Two bills that are really critical for low-income people in the state are two tax cuts. A low-income tax cut, the Working Families Tax Cut, which was sponsored by Representative Christine Sappi, and the Child Independent Care Tax Credit. Representative Sappi is here to talk about the Working Families Tax Cut.
Thank you, Santa. House Bill 1272 would establish a state-earned income tax credit for working families. We agree on many of the underlying issues that make an EITC, and I'm talking about an earned income tax credit, not the other one. A smart investment for Pennsylvanians, such as the gap between wealth and poverty. We know it's grown significantly in the last decade, and the possibility of a middle-class life has become increasingly remote. Not enough young people completing higher education in PA are staying in Pennsylvania. Our employers are in desperate need of workers, and too many currently in the workforce are struggling to make ends meet. These workers are our young adult children, they are our neighbors, and they are our constituents, and they all wish it was just a little bit easier. These Pennsylvanians don't meet eligibility for social safety net programs, but they teeter on the verge of not being able to pay rent on time, or they meet other financial obligations, especially when an unexpected expense arises, like a high medical bill or a car repair. House Bill 1272 establishes this earned income tax credit that mirrors the federal income tax eligibility criteria. People want to work. We want to keep them working. We don't want them to slide behind when something unexpected comes up. We want them to be able to provide for their families. We want them to continue to stay in our neighborhoods and contribute to our commonwealth. So Santa, let's get this done.
Yes.
Can you imagine how wonderful it would be if I show up with the presents on Christmas Day, and then on January 1st, families also get a $15 minimum wage, and a working families tax cut and a child dependent care tax cut, that would make this a very, very happy holiday for everyone. Another important piece of legislation which will protect the lives of Pennsylvanians is gun safety legislation. A background check law and a red flag law passed the House. The former was sponsored by Representative Barry Warren, and the latter by Representative General Nara, who is here today. Your candy cane, and you can tell us what's in that.
Thank you, Mr. Kringle. All I want for Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa this year is for the Pennsylvania Senate to finally pass extreme risk protection orders, or my House Bill 1018. Extreme risk protection orders are wanted by a majority of Pennsylvanians, and they will put in place a real tool for family members to utilize the court system to temporarily remove firearms from someone who is a threat to themselves or someone else. It has been 204 days since this bill passed, and families are getting ready to celebrate Christmas. They're in the middle of celebrating Hanukkah. Kwanzaa's coming up. There are people not at those tables because their lives have been taken from us because of gun violence. It is time to act, and I urge the Senate Republicans, don't end the year on the naughty list. Let's get this done. Pass Senate House Bill 1018.
So that's one paper. Okay, but does it have the? Yes.
Another critical piece of legislation would protect abortion providers and those who come from outside the state to seek abortions in Pennsylvania. Was sponsored by Representative Mary Jo Daley, who is here with us right now. Thank you for being so nice this year.
Thank you so much, Santa Claus. It's good to see you. A little early. So the abortion protection law passed in the House, and it's over in the Senate waiting for a vote. We'll see when that happens. But a big part of what that bill would do would be to protect the providers of the health care, because, you know, abortion in Pennsylvania may be safe and legal, but Pennsylvania is looked at as not a great state because of all the requirements that we have in order to get an abortion, and which really is felt by the doctors who deliver babies, the obstetricians, and it can be a reason that they don't stay here. And when you're in a state where we do not have maternity care for all of the women across the state, then that's really a serious issue. And if you're not friendly and people have another place to go, are they gonna stick around here? And I think these are things that we have to think about. So I was really proud to see the Abortion Protection Act, both for the providers and anybody who comes to Pennsylvania to have an abortion. And I don't know if you saw what the Attorney General did, but they have a whole site now. Have you seen that? I just saw, I don't even know what it all does, but they're there to protect. They've made it very clear that they are there to protect people who come to Pennsylvania to have an abortion. So I think that there are good, strong things that are happening on that issue. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Daley. Before I go into some of the other legislation, I just want to thank two members of Pennsylvanians Together, which is the overarching coalition that's sponsoring this event. Members of CASA are here. And members of Action Together, NEPA, are here. And they are definitely on Santa's nice list. Not just for coming here today, but for the work they've been doing. Next, we have a bill that protects retirement security for state workers. It was sponsored by Representative Steve Malagari and Representative Daniel Deasy. Representative Malagari is here today to collect his candy cane and to tell us about this important legislation.
Thanks, Santa. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Representative Steve Malagari, and I'm here to talk about House Bill 1416. Look, to understand the concept of this bill, imagine that every couple of Christmases you were given a present. And this isn't any ordinary gift, but a lifeline of sorts, meaning that the reason you're getting this every 2 years or every few years, and not every year, is because of the world around you calls for a different standard of needs for survival. So the only way to even qualify for this gift is by cementing your dedication to public service and by retiring as a public school teacher after 1 years of service. So now imagine that the very reason you even had to receive this gift never changed. But since 2002, you stopped getting that life-changing gift. So the present I'm referring to here is a cost of living adjustment, a COLA, an adjustment for our SIRS and PSERS retirees. This bill addresses a long-standing issue of missing a COLA increase for SIRS and PSERS retirees for pre-2001. That's over 20 years that these dedicated service members shaped our state's future, yet for 2 decades, the Grinch has made it his mission to ignore their financial needs, leaving them in uncertainty. So House Bill 1416, along with my colleague Representative Deasy, proposes a very feasible solution, a 15% to 24.5% supplemental annuity based on their retirement date. It's a modest request to address the financial struggles of those who have served our state for a very long time. Our teachers and public servants deserve retirement reflecting their commitment and not marred by financial hardship. So let's show our current retired teachers and our current educators and current teacher workforce that they won't be forgotten about once they're done serving our communities. All the retirees deserve to live with dignity and financial security, and many attempts have been made to address this issue. And for some reason, the Grinch keeps on stealing our grandparents' joy. And if I had one request for Santa Claus this year, for Mr. Kringle, who's standing next to me, it would be to stop that Grinch from stealing a retired school teacher's pay and to give them joy in the form of a COLA. Thank you.
That Grinch really is a menace. And unfortunately, the Grinch is working with the Senate Republican leadership this year. Before we go on to a couple other pieces of legislation, I just want to give some gifts to some of the legislators who are here. They've been voting for these bills. They've been supporting other really great bills, but they're not going to be speaking on specific ones today. So I want to thank Representative Howestein must have had to go. Representative Paul Taycock. Thank you. And Representative Joe Webster. Another critical piece of legislation. Well, first of all, I just want to say something. Can you imagine how wonderful this Christmas would be if all these things have become law? Higher wages, tax cuts for working people, corporate tax reform, an abortion shield law, gun safety, protecting public workers. This next one is also critical because, as you've seen, there have been a lot of strikes lately as workers are demanding higher wages. That's not something the government gets involved in detail, but they can protect striking workers by making sure that they have ability to collect unemployment insurance, but if they can't work through no fault of their own. Representative Dave Deloso is here to talk about a bill sponsored by Representative Mandy Steele.
Thank you, Chris Kringle. Happy holidays to everyone. I am, of course, here to speak about House Bill 1481, sponsored by Representative Mandy Steele, championed by Dan Miller. I am a co-sponsor, and I am very jealous not to have been the sponsor of this bill. What it basically says is that if you are involved in a labor stoppage, that you can access your paid-for Pennsylvania unemployment insurance. Listen, you can be denied unemployment for willful misconduct. A strike is not willful misconduct. A strike is simply a group of workers that are collectively bargaining for an equitable resolution with their sometimes obstinate and belligerent employer. Corporate profits are out of control. Wages aren't keeping pace with it. Sometimes between wages and benefits, members must select to go on strike and withhold their labor, because without labor, there is no capital. Employers are able to hire replacement workers, sell down inventory, and keep the revenue going. Right now in Pennsylvania, workers get nothing while they're exercising their right to strike. We're going to change that this holiday season. Our champion in the Senate is Senator Acosta. We're hoping for this to be signed. I've been a union member and still remain a union member for over 30 years, and it's all I want this holiday season. And thank you all for championing such a good piece of legislation for working Pennsylvanians. Thank you.
Two other legislators just joined us, Representative Borowski and Representative Serrato. I want to give you your candy canes. We have one or two more bills, but I don't think the legislators who can speak on them are here. So I'm going to have to do that for them. One incredible piece of legislation that Representative Harris and Senator Saval have sponsored is the Whole Home Repairs Bill. That's a bill, this is such an important bill, I even heard of it in the North Pole. This is a bill that's going to help people with low incomes repair their homes. We funded it for 1 year. It's already in place, but there was additional funding for the bill for a second year. It's passed the House, and we're still waiting for it to pass the Senate. So that's another critical piece of legislation we're looking for. Who invited the Grinch? Is Representative Rousey here? One of the things we started the year off with was a bill to provide justice for survivors of sexual abuse, to open up a window for 2 years to allow people who have been sexually abused to sue their abusers. That was sponsored by Representative Mark Rossi. We were hoping he'd be here, but I guess he's not. So I want to thank him for his work in sponsoring this legislation, and thank the members of the House Caucus and the Democrats, the House Democratic Caucus, and the couple of Republicans who supported this bill as well. Thank you. See another representative here. Thank you. Waiting for a final guest. Yeah, we've gone through all of them.
K through 12. School funding. School funding?
Oh, school funding.
The big one.
About that. Would you like to come speak about school funding? Anyone want to talk about school funding? Level up?
Santa, this present is really important to all of our students who attend public schools. Our school districts are struggling with reimbursements of charter schools for paying increases in transportation, special education. They are in the red at the end of the school year. So with increased school funding will help our school districts, in turn help our teachers and help our students. It's incredibly important, and it's definitely on my wish list this year. Thank you, Santa.
So you may have noticed we've lost some of these presents. And I've seen that sneaky Grinch coming around from time to time. This has been a problem in this building for a long time. It used to affect both chambers, but now it seems mostly to affect the Senate chamber, which is still run by the Republicans, because they've been blocking all these wonderful pieces of legislation which have been passed the House, have not passed the Senate, and I think we see the reason now, because the Grinch seems to be, I don't know where, seems to be stealing these things on behalf of the Senate Republicans. So it's hard to know how to deal with this problem, but I have two friends of mine who I've known for a long time who are going to be here any minute to tell us what we can do to make sure this legislation gets through the Senate very soon. And we're just going to wait for 1 second because there's a lot of going on this week and they may be a little tied up, but we hope they'll be here in just a second. First up, my good friend, Senator Vince Hughes, the chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee, he's going to tell us what to do about this Grinch stealing all these great gifts from the people of Pennsylvania, and how we can move ahead and overcome the Grinch's work with the Senate Republican leadership.
What's up, Santa Claus?
He's
winning my candy cane. All right. What do I want for Christmas? What do we want for Christmas, right? It's all about what we want for Christmas. That Grinch keeps stealing our Christmas, right? Look at these children. They want Santa Claus to bring some gifts for Christmas. It's not complicated. It's really simple. How about a minimum wage increase? That sounds good. How come a low-income tax cut? What's wrong with that? That sounds good. All right. How about once and for all, a dramatic increase in funding for K-12 education? Grinch, stop stealing our Christmas. That's the Grinch. Whole home repairs. We worked hard to get that done. We need to keep that going and expand it. Am I right, Santa Claus? All right. Grinch keeps stealing our Christmas. Child Development Tax Credit. That is a huge deal. That is a huge deal. But the Grinch keeps on stealing Christmas. Is that, you like that? No. Do you like that? What about you? You like that? What about you? You like that? When the Grinch, I saw a Grinch. Did I see him walking around here?
Someone's stealing the presents.
Okay. Or they over in the okay. There's a Grinch stealing Christmas. My goodness. Corporate tax reform, abortion shield law, justice for survivors, protect striking workers, gun safety background checks. Please, background checks, gun safety background checks, extend occupational safety and health, retirement security for teachers and public service, the Fairness Act. The Grinch keeps stealing our toys from underneath the Christmas tree. And we don't like that, do we? You like that? You like that? No, you don't. No, you don't like it. You don't like it. All of this great legislation. You thank my House colleagues for being in the true spirit of Santa Claus. All right, for coming down the chimney and trying to with the gifts, but they can't get all the way through because the Grinch is blocking them. They passed all this great legislation out of the House and so much more, but it's stuck over my side of the building. And all my colleagues are like, come on, release the gifts that the House has sent us. Release the gifts of fair legislation, of great legislation that the House has sent us. Let's unclog this huge budget surplus that we have in Pennsylvania. $8 billion surplus, $6.3 billion in the rainy day fund. Release, let's unclog that up. Let's get it out of the stuck chimney chimney that Santa Claus is trying to get down. Jay, you've been trying to get down that chimney for a long time.
Decades.
For decades. We want Santa to get all the way through. We want to kick the Grinch to the curb. Yes. All right? That's holding up a huge number of gifts for the people of Pennsylvania. And, you know, look, it's the season, and we try to be a little humorous and a little light about this. But let's be clear, all this legislation that I just referred to and so much more that's come out of the House of Representatives, it's really not gifts for us. It's really gifts for the 12 million people here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to make their lives better. And when we do better in Pennsylvania, the whole state does better. All right? The whole country does better. All right? When we're doing good, everyone else does great. So let's send this message. Let's release these gifts and get them to the people of Pennsylvania because they deserve it. They've been waiting far too long for Santa Claus, the Santa Claus of great public policy, to get out all across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania with so many gifts that the House of Representatives has sent us. Thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Santa Claus, that's good?
Maybe the Grinch is bringing some of them back. We could use that. We've got to convince people on the other side of this building, as Senator Hughes says, to support these incredible initiatives. These and many more. We've had so many good things happen. And let me tell you, I'm up at the North Pole. I see what's happening not just in Pennsylvania, but in lots of other states. All this legislation, many other states have it. Many other states have closed the corporate tax loopholes. Many other states, in fact, every state around us is on path to $15 for a minimum wage. Other states around us have passed the Justice for Survivors Act. Background checks, red flag laws, we're going to be one of the last states to pass them if we don't move soon. Other states are protecting striking workers and are helping retired public workers get the pensions they need. These are all critically important for people all over the state. Pennsylvania, because the Grinch seems to operate here far more than many other states, is behind the curve. Thanks to these representatives, thanks to the leadership in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, we've had great success this year, but we've got to get it over the finish line. So I want to thank everyone who joined us today. I want to thank all of you from CASA and Action Together Northeast PA and our other partners in Pennsylvania together. We can't do this. We may have turned the Grinch a little bit. Thank you for all these great speeches. Maybe the Grinch is moving on. We're going to go up with the Grinch to the Senate Republican leadership and give them their lumps of coal because of what they've done so far this year. But maybe they'll change their minds too, and we'll actually see some of these great gifts come to all the people of Pennsylvania. If not by the end of this year, then by the end of next year, when I make my return. Thank you very much for joining.
Give the kids some candy canes.
What? Oh, and thankfully, before you leave, Santa, something's wrong.
Get your candy cane.
You want a picture with Santa in your candy cane? Oh. Some more candy canes? How we doing?